So
And I
yeah.
love how you mentioned that you hadn't ever met your biological father, but
Mm.
you're thinking John Lovitz.
Yeah,
So funny. And I
absolutely.
want to give you a tag.
Oh, thank you. That's a new
I,
requirement on Clean Comedy Chats. You
yeah,
have to help me make my jokes better.
yeah.
You're listening to the podcast Clean Comedy Chats with your host Drew Davis. It's gonna be awesome and will change your life forever. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Clean Comedy Chats with your host, Drew Davis. That's me. I'm so excited you're here. If you're listening to this podcast, you might already know the drill because we're in episode 3. This podcast is where we interview a different comedian each week who's part of the Clean Comedy Collective, which is a clean comedy network, a virtual network of comedians from all across America. And this whole podcast is really an excuse for me to make new friends. Honestly, I'm just having conversations with new people I'm meeting. And my hope is in the process of me making new friends, you might also, listening to this, discover your new favorite comedian. So each week we have a different guest, and this week is no different. I'm very happy to introduce our guest for you this week. His name's Brian Atkinson. Brian, I forgot to ask. I want to say you're from Michigan. Are you from Michigan? That was
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
I grew up in the
Go
Chicago
ahead.
suburbs, which is just kind of like around the horn of Lake Michigan there.
Okay.
But I've been in Rapids, Michigan most of my adult life, and it's a good place to branch out from. There's a good comedy scene here. Detroit is 2.5 hours away. Chicago is 2.5 hours away. It's 3 hours and change to Indianapolis. So it's easy to get to lots of other Midwest spots.
Brian is a comedian who played a serial killer on TV while doing voices for PBS Kids. The guy next door with a radio voice who talks about his career in broadcasting voiceover and being adopted twice with twisted observations of everyday life. Brian is an award winning comedian and he is so funny, you might not even notice he's clean. What a fun, well written intro.
Thank you.
Brian, in your own words, though, because we
Yeah.
we talked about this last week with when Paula was on it. We always ask, people always tell you who they think you are, but I want to know from your perspective, who
Well,
is
yeah.
Brian Atkinson?
Well, I wrote the intro. I
Hmm?
wrote my own bios, so that's who I think I am. Um, One exercise that I think is always fun to do with other comics, but it's almost better to do with people that you've just met. You've met them, talked to them for a little bit, you feel comfortable, and then say, okay, this is just an exercise. I need you to tell me what are your first impressions of me.
Hmm.
And and if you ask that same question of lifelong friends or people that you've known for years and years, they have a sense of who you are inside that is not necessarily how you come across as a first impression. So I always love to ask people, so what's your first impression of me? So I'm
All
turning the
right.
question
So
back on
okay,
you, Drew.
yeah, this is
Yeah.
for those of you that don't know, which might be a lot of people listening. Technically, this is Brian and I's first time meeting, like
Yep.
kind of in person, virtually in person. So
Yeah. A
this
little
really is a
social
first.
media.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
This is
yeah.
this is a first. So I'll give you my first impression of you, and then you can give me your first impression of
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and we'll just see how weird it gets. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know if it's because of the white beard and the kind of longish hair, but also it's definitely your personality. You give me Santa Claus-ish vibes. Not just in appearance though, but
Yeah.
I love your laugh. I love your jolliness. You just seem
Hmm.
like a friendly, funny, enjoyable guy that likes life. And especially when we're looking at comedians, that's something I really like. I'm sure Brian, you've worked with enough comedians where sometimes you get the ones that are funny on the outside, but on the inside they're very sad and aren't happy, or they're happy on the outside and they're not so much happy on
Yeah.
the inside. And
Yeah.
I get it. I mean, I see with the trajectory of comedy and life sometimes how we can get like that, but it just is always interesting to me that the dichotomy of so many comedians are so skilled at making people happy, but at the end of the day, they're not
Yeah.
that happy themselves. All that to say is, when you're the kind of comedian that, I mean, like, no, like he seems like a happy, real, genuine person. And friendly. So those are my first impressions.
Nailed it.
It's
Perfect.
perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, if there's anything that I would want to portray is that I'm genuinely, I use the phrase the guy next door. Um, I I look like I could live in your neighborhood. My hope is I look like somebody that you want to hang out with.
Hmm.
Um, Approachable, friendly. That's what I'm always going for. And I hope I'm so delighted to hear that that came across.
Mhm. All
Yeah,
right, your
so
turn. For
coming back at you. So a couple of things. One is I know that you are a former youth pastor.
Mhm.
And if I didn't know that, I would say probably a youth pastor.
Right,
Yeah,
I've gotten
right.
that before. Yep.
And and what that means to me is somebody who is very approachable, caring, friendly, kind, interested in what other people are doing, investing themselves in other people. And as I've gotten to know you just ever so slightly through the Clean Comedy Collective, all of those things are hitting. I mean, that's exactly what you're doing out there. So I hope that I got close into that as well.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I am I want to say I'm 3 or 4 years out of ministry, like vocationally. I mean, I did it
Hmm.
for 15 years, but it's so interesting in whatever job I have, whether it's like comedy or my day job or whatever,
Yeah.
the things that were so important in youth ministry I feel like to be a good youth pastor keep kind of coming up in day-to-day life. And I forgot to mention, gang, this is
Oh, sure.
Valentine's Day. This isn't currently
Oh,
Valentine's Day, but this episode is coming out on the 14th of February. So Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day. I hope you're all with the
yeah.
people you love, just getting in, listening to this podcast. What a
Yeah.
great couples activity. But in this season of love, tell me, Brian, what is
Mm.
it you just absolutely love about stand-up comedy? Like just your favorite thing of it all.
Um, all the attention's on me. Uh, I mean, there's so much of comedy that's like I hear people say like, "How do you get over stage fright? And how do you get used to people looking at you and stuff like that?" I'm like, man, if you don't want that, then
Yeah.
don't do this because that's what it is. I sometimes people say, "Oh, like we want a stand-up comic to come and perform at our wedding." I'm like, "Okay, let me counsel you against that because you are planning a day where everyone is paying attention to you all day, and then for half an hour or 45 minutes or an hour, whatever you want, you're going to have me show up and tell
Mhm.
everybody quit looking at them and look at me. And you
Right.
know who's going to want to look at me? Just me. Nobody else in the room is going to want to do it.
Right.
They're all just going to be like, "Why are we doing this?" It's it's not good. Don't do it. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying it's like it's just antithetical to
Yeah.
the whole purpose of that celebrating that loving relationship of two people and no come pay
Now let's
attention to me,
listen to
somebody
this
that
guy.
you're never going to see me again, whatever. But so definitely I've always been an attention whore,
Mhm.
for lack of a
Honestly,
better term.
same. I think
Yeah.
all comedians
Yep.
need to come to terms with like,
Yeah,
yes,
that's who we
me
are.
too. You know.
I always did a lot of theater. One thing that is in my past is I worked on the radio for a long time, and I started that in high school and continued on into my 20s and 30s. But the thing about working on the radio is it's somewhat anonymous
Hmm.
because unless you're out, like I worked at one station where we had a van with a big antenna on it and we would park that somewhere and do the show from the van. And then people would walk up and people would say, "You don't look like your voice." I don't need any idea what that's supposed to mean or how to take that. But working on the radio, I got a lot of creative outlet, but then I walk out the door the next, when my shift's over and go to the grocery store or whatever, and that's that. Um, there's nothing more exciting than being on stage and having people applaud and laugh and all of that. Whereas working on radio, I'm just in a room by myself. And
Right.
you get a phone call or something, and they're like, "Oh, that was great. Thanks for doing that," kind of thing. But that's so rare compared with in stand up, you get the feedback immediately.
Right.
It's there's no question in my mind, am I funny? Because I have proven it hundreds of times, gone on stage, told a joke that I wrote, and people laughed.
Hmm.
Check, done. I'm funny. Yeah. Um, there's living room funny, funny with your friends, funny with your family and stuff like that. And that's they all know you. And I have seen people, somebody recently show up at an open mic with their family and friends, little table of six, and then this aspiring comedian, and she got up and told a story of something that happened to her, but it didn't have any structure. It didn't have any of the 13 comedy strategies or tools. There was nothing there that made it funny, but all of her friends were just rolling because they knew the other people in the story.
Yeah. They had
And
all the
and it's,
context that wasn't
yeah,
properly being portrayed to the rest of the room.
yeah. And so that, she felt great. She's like, I made my friends laugh. And it's always like, but can you make the strangers laugh? And
Mm-hmm.
so being able to do that, being up on stage, my favorite place in the world, and then be able to get that immediate feedback.
And I'm so glad you said that about you love that all the attention is on you, because I 100% relate to that. I remember years ago, I took like an improv class, and then it led up
Mm,
to your big improv show. And I
yeah.
loved the class. I loved learning how to improv. I enjoyed the people I met and the games we played during class and learning the
Hmm.
whole skill of improv. But I had like a big moment at the actual show because I did not have fun doing improv. And the reason why, if I'm being 100% honest,
Yeah.
it's because I had to share the stage with these other people and I wanted
Yeah.
all the attention on me. So I did one improv show and then just decided it's not for me.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
Yeah.
it was fine. So
Yeah.
and I think all comedians need to be honest with the fact that like we do, the part of it is we selfishly want all of that on us.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing.
No,
I think we can lead it to make it a bad thing, but like that by
sure.
itself is okay, you know.
Can we be okay with that? Be honest and confessional about it and say
Mhm.
that's the thing. And at the same time, how can we give back to that community of other comics? How can we help them get better? How can we make it not all about us
Right.
when we're off the stage? The about us is on stage. As
Yes.
soon as I'm off stage and somebody comes up after me and they want to talk to me or they want to buy merch or whatever, it is all about them. It's
Right.
all about it's thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad you
Mhm.
were here. Did you have fun? I'm so glad all of that is the focus. I'm focusing on them.
Absolutely.
And thank you. Please do follow me on social media. I'd love to hear from you. All of that. So it's really just for whether that's a few minutes or half an hour, 45 or an hour, whatever it is, that's when it's just about me.
Right.
And I think the
And you kind of
hardest,
need it to be with the confidence. You have to have
yeah,
the confidence when
yeah,
you're on stage. I'm the most important person in the room because you're trying to command everyone's attention.
yeah,
But like you said, once you get off stage,
yeah,
the same things that make you really good at comedy on stage can also make you a jerk off stage.
yeah,
I learned
yeah.
that by my second year in comedy, I was still finding myself. I was still figuring some things out, and
Yeah.
so I started thinking like, oh, this is working on stage. Well, let me apply it to when I'm out with my friends, or let me apply, And I lost a lot of friends. I started not getting invited to lunch as much after church because
Yeah.
I would try to monopolize the conversation. I tried to be the funny guy all the time. I
Yeah.
try to get that laughs and stuff that I was getting on stage. But like honestly, off stage, it just made me look like a douchebag. Like it really
Yeah,
did.
for sure.
And
Like you said, if you take what you do on stage out into the real world, you come across like a jerk. So don't do
yeah,
that.
I genuinely believe you have your onstage character, and part of the skill of comedy is developing who that person is on. But then you also have your offstage character. That's the person at the merch table, the person interacting with the comedians at the open mics. Like you learn what parts of you are still marketable when you're off stage, even like when you're on podcasts, when you're like you have that. And then if we're being honest, you have like the real version of yourself, when you're hanging out with your non-comedian friends, when you're actually the realest version. I think the realest version of myself is who am I in my living room when I'm watching TV and nobody else is around. You know, the
Is
that's
that a quiet version of Drew, or is Drew talking all the time then?
I'm still actively busy, but yeah, I do less talking when it's just me. But I don't also like there's always music, there's always a TV show. I don't like being alone.
Yeah.
I even if it's
Yeah, yeah,
fake, whatever, I always gotta there's gotta be something going on. I should eventually address that in life. But not yet. Well, and one of the another kind of a side quest I want to go on, but we were talking about it a little bit before we hit record about you are an award-winning bash comedian,
yeah.
like a four or
Yeah.
five time winning. You got a lot of so for people that don't know, the Bash is a website, a gig service where comedians can connect and build profiles, and then clients can find you. People who want comedy shows and
Yeah.
comedians, they can find you and book you through that. So for a lot of aspiring comedians, if you're looking for like, what's ways you can do to grow your career, get booked more, and maybe start making money from comedy, gig gig salad, the Bash,
Hmm.
these kind of websites, these are
Yeah.
places to look into, but it's not as easy as just making a profile and doing it. You have to have quality content to share, you have to
Right.
have good marketing skills, you have to have good interaction. You're the product and you're the salesman as well. So there's a lot that goes into it. And we are on air right now in this podcast on episode 3 with an award-winning basher.
So yeah, every year in January they basically look at how many gigs did you have and did they have 4 or 5 star reviews, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So um all the gigs that I got through the Bash last year, I got 5 star reviews. And so since there was nothing, no argument there, there's just like
Mhm.
here's your
Yeah.
here's your so when you started the Clean Comedy Collective and you gave out everybody had the little seal, the ribbon that they could put on their
Mhm.
website, put that, and it's right next to the Bash Awards that
Yeah.
show up there. Yeah, and there's one for like being a quick responder, like if you respond within the first few minutes or first half hour, that kind of thing, you get that award and you kind of maintain that. Um, but then so it's an award, but I think it brings up the larger question of is that a real credit? And
Mm.
and the answer to the question is everything is a real credit. So if you went through my credits, you read some stuff earlier, played a serial killer on TV and did voices for PBS Kids. And the part that isn't in there is in the same studio on the same day.
That's
So
impressive. Yeah.
I had done a few voice jobs for PBS Kids in Philadelphia. I lived there for a long time and got kind of in their stable of voices that they would use. And as I was booked to do that, I then auditioned for this Lifetime Movie Network movie. And I need to make sure I spell that all out because when I say Lifetime Movie Network movie, they said, "Oh, a Lifetime movie?" No, 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 no. A Lifetime Movie Network movie. So this in particular thing was a TV show called The Killers, and it was all about different serial killers. So it was all reenactment cast stuff. So I didn't have any lines. They just looked me in, and I played this one of the speed freak killers from California, who he and this other guy, as they started in their 20s and then they got older and eventually went to jail and everything. But I played the older version of that. But I had to do some stuff on camera that was like, oh, that's absolutely
Yeah.
diabolical. I had a knife and I had to make it glisten in the lights and we did a scene in a car where they moved the car on us and yeah, it was a load of fun.
But you know what,
But
you I'm sorry to interrupt. I was
yeah,
just
you're
thinking
fine.
like when we were talking about you being like the guy next door and like the
Yeah,
friendly
yeah.
neighbor, I was like, he is either the friendly neighbor who's genuinely friendly, or he's the serial killer
Yeah,
neighbor who's
right.
friendly at first. And then so like it completely makes sense that
Yeah.
someone saw you and was like, he'd be great for this role.
That was 15 years ago. It's not like that happened Thursday. And I say I worked in radio. I worked in radio for over a decade, but that's been 20 years since I did that. I still do some voiceover work. You're kind of in my studio right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Beautiful studio, by the way. It looks so I'm envious of your microphone. I was checking that out earlier. So
hell yeah, that's what I hear. Um, but so every credit there, whether it's something that you've done that is interesting or something that sounds like, oh, that's a great award. I was an audience favorite in the funniest person in Grand Rapids contest. It's a contest that they used to do every year. They don't do that anymore. But there was a judge's vote and an audience vote. And I got a whole bunch of people to come to it and vote for me. And they did. And I got the audience favorite. So I can unpack all of that. It's like, oh, that's not a very good credit. Yeah, but it's a credit. Because the
Yeah.
whole purpose of having those credits is to have something that people can kind of hang their hat on and say, oh, this is legit. This is a good person. So one of the very first things I did when I started doing comedy is I said, well, I need to build a website. And I have built lots and lots of websites over the years. So building one for myself for comedy was, just I had eventually
Yeah.
get enough pictures from doing comedy that I had pictures to put on there, and then eventually build reviews and build a gig calendar. And there's things I had to do. But now when you go to my website, which is brianacomedian.com, uh,
Which is
it's
also
and
in our
I'm
episode notes if you guys
yeah, yeah,
want to check it out later. But
and Brian A Comedian on all the socials.
Mhm.
So keeping that consistent, but when you go there, it's like, oh, this looks like a legitimate website. It gives me legitimacy. My credits give me legitimacy. Um, but now, getting close to a decade of doing comedy, it's like it better be. Um, and now I have more credits. Like, well, I've performed at these clubs, I've worked with these people, that kind of thing. But I don't have the special. I don't have the. I mean, you produced your own special this
I,
last year, was it?
I did, yes, and
Yeah,
even that is something in regards to kind, because as a comedian, we're often there's a voice in our head saying like, but is that really a credit? Like I have
yeah,
independently produced 3 comedy specials,
yeah,
but often once people hear that, the next question is like, oh, but do you have a dry bar special? Or like, oh,
yeah,
or you're comparing it to like, oh, but the Netflix special, that's like the thing
yeah. Right,
that's a
right.
real. So there is, on one, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, that special isn't as important as the other ones because it was a personal project that I put a team together and put together and did, and people find value in your stuff even if you can point to something else and like, but I wish I had that. And so like
Sure.
when we're considering our credits, yes, there's always something that's better that maybe you can reach for, or maybe later you'll get something better. So when someone
Right.
asks you for your top 3 credits, maybe you will stop listing, those ones from 15 years ago. But like it is important, even just for our own well-being emotionally, to acknowledge the wins, acknowledge the
Yeah.
cool things we get to do as comedians, even if you in your head you're like, yeah, but it's not as cool as that other person's. Like it's
Right.
take the wins when you get them, because in life
Absolutely.
there's a lot more losses than wins, so we should
Ooh.
appreciate the wins.
Yeah.
um but I also think, and you do this well on your site, I know because I was looking at it yesterday. um when you read the on his front page or the front thing of Brian, it'll kind of list the major ones, but there's a page you can go to that lists literally everything he's done. And I know I do that on my pages too. Like if
Hmm.
people ask, if someone says like, how can I bring you up on stage, they're not going to list every single thing I've ever done.
No,
I might
no,
list the
no.
top 3 things, but like if you go to my site or even a EPK or something I give specifically to a bookers, it does list everything I've done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
for
don't know if
sure.
people are going to read it or they need to read it, but after reading it, you will get a better taste of like, oh, because a comic like myself, I don't have a dry bar special, I don't have a Netflix special, but someone who looks at all my credits, I hope would think like, but as far as content
But
wise,
all
he
of
would
this, yeah.
he would be able to keep up.
Yeah.
And I do I one of my selfishly, and again, we already admitted that we love comedy because it's all about us. So I don't
Yep.
feel bad for admitting another selfish fault of my own. But oftentimes I'll get booked as like a feature, or I'll get booked as like a substitute. Like, hey, someone gonna make it last
Yeah.
minute. Are you available? We know you could headline. And so,
Yeah.
but and one of my favorite compliments I ever get from venues or bookers, and it's terrible that I'm admitting this, but we're a safe space on the Clean Comedy Chats.
Just
One of
before you
my
say what it is, in my head, I know what it's going to be.
oh yeah,
And
too, what
and I got the same comment recently, if it is what I think it is. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, it's where they're like, man, I should have booked you as the headliner on purpose. Like that's what I'll get all the time. Is like, wow,
Yeah.
you and it I'll never get tired of hearing that. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, I hope eventually people start booking me as a headliner on purpose more,
Yeah.
but like it is
Yeah.
it because it validates like, oh, I'm doing what I want to be doing, you
Yeah.
know?
As I go feature places, sometimes a headliner bring me in as a feature, and part of being a feature is you don't want to be as good as the headliner.
Mhm.
And so does that mean I pull my punches? Does that mean I, back off the energy a little bit, that kind of thing? Or is it just like that headliner just better be better than me?
Mhm.
And the audience better be there for them and want to hear their jokes more than mine. I should seem not an annoyance, but not as important, and that's up to
Yeah.
them. And so I'm still going to give everything I've got to every show, but sometimes I do my feature set the 30 minutes before the headliner comes out, and I come off stage, and the host looks at me like, "You were killing it," and you're watching me walk by, or they were crushing out there. And I'm like, that's right. That's what we
Mhm.
do. And then the headliner gets up there and flails a little or
Mhm.
tries to get the audience into their stuff. And
Yeah.
it's the audience is like, we kind of want more of him. And
Yeah.
even though they came for the headliner. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that just happened to me recently where somebody from the audience did the little whisper, "I liked you the best." And
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
It's just,
And I love
and
it.
as
And
comedians, it's music to our ears.
yeah,
Now, if you're listening to this and you ever headline after a feature that's a tough act to follow, the
yep.
single best thing you can do to make your life easier is on stage address how amazing they were. I do a
Yeah.
lot of I work self-deprecating a lot, like with my jokes.
Hmm.
So I'll have a joke. My opening joke is like, okay, I'm gonna need us all just to lower our expectations a little bit,
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
and because when you validate how good that person was, instantly everyone will like you a lot
Yeah.
better, and they'll be ready to hear you
Yeah.
as a comedian. Have you ever lost work with a headliner because you were such a good feature?
Not as far as I know.
They
They
probably
they
don't
haven't
like call you and tell you
they
that, do
haven't said,
they?
"Hey, yeah, you were really good, so I'm not going to be."
Well, hello. Yes, this is what my voice sounds like. It was weird when I was younger. Mama. Dada. Goo goo. It was weird being the only bass in third grade. Yeah, no, I worked on the radio for a long time. This is just how my voice comes out. My wife is totally used to it. I'll get home tonight, walk in the door. "Hi, honey. It's 5 minutes after the hour. 35 degrees outside, lights moderate traffic on the surface streets, and I'm home."
Yeah, that hasn't happened.
Yeah,
The thing
I
that
have.
I enjoy that I think would be fun for you and I to
Mhm.
co-headline,
Yeah,
right? Would be our voices are so different. Uh,
that's very true.
right? If if you guys haven't watched Drew's special yet, and I've forgotten the name of your recent special.
It is
Uh,
actually funny. It's one of
Actually
the most
funny, that's the
common.
one. Yeah.
Yep.
And I had just written a bit about somebody called me he's as funny as an actual comedian or a real comedian. So
Yeah.
right there. So
Thank you,
yeah,
man.
and you're actually funny. You talk about your voice a bit.
Mhm.
In my material, I need to start with my voice
Mhm.
because if I walk out there, there's an old movie trailer voiceover guy who he would be being interviewed and so on, and it's like, is this what you sound like all the time? And he's like, I have to really temper my voice when I'm out in public because I can't just walk up, "I'd like a can of peas, please."
Right.
you know
Okay.
yeah, but if I'm start on a stage and I'm, "Hey, it's really great to be here, you guys look great, it's wonderful to see you," and people are like, "What is up with the way that guy sounds?" I have
They're
to
like,
address
what
that.
movie
That's
trailer am I
Yeah,
in?
that's my elephant in the room, and I
Yeah.
can temper my voice. I can get all over the place, but I'll start here, and that's been a wealth of material for me in
Mhm.
the same way that as you address your voice.
Right.
But
Early
to have
on.
the
So that was
yeah,
when I first started at the first comedy club I used to get work at. It was actually, what's interesting is it's a comedy club in Jackson, Tennessee, and at the time this podcast is happening, I'll be in Jackson, Tennessee
oh, fun,
performing at a but I was very blessed there to have the guy who ran the club and booked the show took an invested interest in me, and so I and it was the first club I ever got about opening work or guest work or eventual feature work, which means he saw me do well, but he also saw me bomb a ton.
Yeah.
But what was cool is after each show, he would take me aside and give me some advice and help me build my act. And one of the most important things I remember that I learned there was, I had my jokes about my high voice. He said, do that exactly what you do that at the beginning of your act because
Yeah.
people are going to be wondering about it. So
Yeah.
I would do, and I still, when I'm doing like a full act, I will do a few jokes that have like nothing to do with my voice. But then like the next bit I get into will be intentionally about my voice, because if I don't, I've learned if I don't, people will still, I talk a lot about how people wonder if I'm gay or not because of my voice.
Yeah.
And like what I've learned is people will still be thinking about that if I don't address it. So there's a cool comedy trick where if you know what people are thinking, kind of, or the generic, general, most of them are, and you make jokes about it, then it helps, it eases the tension, and then they want to hear the rest of
They're
what
on
you're
your side
say.
then.
Yeah.
So, and I love how you talked about you mentioned that you hadn't ever met your biological father, but you're thinking John Lovitz.
Yeah.
So funny. And then you told us the story that went on to that. It said, and I love that joke, but it makes me mad when the audience laughs because I didn't write it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to give you a tag.
Thank you. That's the new requirement on Clean Comedy Chats. You have to help me make my jokes better.
Yeah.
Every comedian, future comedian listening to that. So.
Yeah. So the tag would be, after you've kind of said, it's clear that you look like John Lovitz and stuff. And people have asked if I can do a John Lovitz impression. I'm always doing a John Lovitz impression.
Right. I love that. That. That's great.
Yeah.
That's good because people do kind of expect something John Lovitz related and move on. So that's thank you. That's good.
Yeah,
that was a good note.
Thank you.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about your voiceovering and your acting. Sure. And do you have, because clearly in talking to you, I can tell, and I already knew this about you, your passion for stand-up comedy, like it radiates from you. When it comes to voiceovering and even acting, is that something you care about as much? Is that something you still do, or is it does it pay the bills? Is that why you do it? Or
So yeah, voiceover has the same problem that comedy does, in that you spend all your time hustling trying to get a job. And the difference is that with a voiceover job, I can sit down in front of this microphone, hit record, and record a demo of something that somebody says, we're looking for somebody that is this. And I record it and make sure it's tight the way I want it to be, send it off, and it's just like sending out avails. I never hear from them again. That's just gone. You're never going to hear from 99% of the time. And I could sit here and send out those auditions, for several hours every day. There was a period in my life where I had lost my day job and I was fun employed for 14 months.
I'm sorry, did you say fun employed?
I did say fun employed.
I love that.
Yeah. And during that time, I did a bunch of voiceover work. And that's when I did the Lifetime Movie Network movie, and did voices for PBS Kids and a bunch of other stuff. And I had a great time doing it. And I had just started to build momentum to the point where, I now have a lot of gigs lined up in the next week. And if I can keep this going, and you get to know people, you build your contacts and so on. And then I had to have an emergency appendectomy.
Oh.
And so that was on a Monday, and I had gigs on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday that I had to cancel. So I'm calling from the emergency room, and they're saying, I have to cancel Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I have to cancel all these because I'm having an emergency appendectomy. I'm going to be in the hospital still on Wednesday, and I'm not going to be able to be on camera, and I'm not going to be able to, that kind of stuff. And everybody was super nice. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope you feel better soon. Okay. And then anytime I, checked in with them for stuff like that, just ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had gotten momentum to the point of I could really turn this into a career, the little thing like that, and it just collapsed. And that kind of thing, with acting, with voiceover work, with stand-up comedy, and so on,
Mhm.
that can happen.
Yeah.
Um, to the point that as comics, if nobody's telling you say yes to everything, you kind of need to do that for quite a while within
Absolutely.
reason. I mean,
Yeah.
don't if you're like being asked to do something that conflicts with your morals or it's against the law or things
Mhm.
like that, well, don't do that. Don't be a jerk about it. But it's like we need somebody to do 5 minutes. We need you to do seven. We need you to do 10. Can you do 30 minutes and don't write a check you can't cash? Make sure that you've got the
Yeah.
goods to be able to do what they are asking you to do, but do it all. Do the road trips to get there and so on. There's tons of opportunities here, and so the pacing yourself, but being able to say yes to as much as you can. Just to kind of circle back around to
Mhm.
doing things on the Bash. Um, while I know I'm a best of the Bash
Mhm.
for several years in a row, um, part of that is because I'm pickier now than I was when I first got started. When I first got started, I was doing jobs I had no business doing,
Mhm.
that I should not have taken. I didn't know what I was doing, and I just did it on, my confidence, which can go a long ways. Um,
Yeah.
I never questioned that I could do it, and I look back on it now, I'm like, oh, I should not have done that. But
Right.
the but when
Rebooking,
I
getting rebooked is important too.
for sure. So now, I reject or don't submit to way more
Mhm.
gigs than I submit to. And then of the ones I submit to, I have a high booking rate because I think I'm a really good fit for that.
Right.
I'll submit, and so my rate is higher in that respect. But
I love that.
most,
It's like you're realizing who your audience is, who your
yep,
demographic is, who the people
yeah,
potential employers are. I think I felt like this before, and I'm getting to the point where I'm less like this. But when you start out in comedy, you want to do all the shows. You want to shoot for all the you shoot all the shots. You want
I
to,
can do any show,
yeah,
I can work for any audience.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
But as you develop your act, you realize that certain groups of people will really like you and other rooms are not the
yeah,
rooms that are like your rooms.
yeah.
And then I have a better understanding of it now as a producer because I have so many nice comedians I would love to book for shows that I know that are a bad fit for my room. Like I know
Yeah.
they're good people and I like their act, but I know that South Nashville older senior citizen like people that
There you
want
go.
clean comedy are not
Yep.
going to like their act. And
Yeah.
so when they're like, "Hey, can I do your show?" I have to politely be like, "No." and
Yeah.
that's and
Like,
and that's helped me a little bit when it's because I'll be shooting for all these comedy clubs or whatever, and
yeah.
if I don't hear back from them, similar to what you're saying with the voiceovers, you send all those. It feels like you're sending a job application every time you say it. Send in a
Yep.
a
20,
reel or
30 a
whatever.
day. Yeah.
Yep. And it used to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. But now I'm realizing like
Yeah.
I might just not be a good fit for that room.
That
And
particular thing.
yeah, and that's okay. That it is what it is.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
the shows that I do take on there, are I call it corporate light because it's not like big business corporate with tens of thousands of dollars in pay. No, it's hundreds of dollars in fees. Um, and it might be 30 people. It might
yeah,
be 100 people. It could be things like that. I've found that I have a real affinity for fundraisers. I worked in ministry. I worked in the not-for-profit sector for a long time, so I have a great understanding of what those events need to feel like and what needs to work for them. And I've tailored some of what I do to that. Um, I don't do a ton of church shows. I think you and I are like-minded in where we fall um in the pantheon of that's the wrong word. The pantheon of Christianity. Yeah.
I hope
Yeah, it's that.
I like that word. That's
I don't
fine.
I don't think that's what you mean, Brian. So there's church shows that I do, but I look for churches that are real middle of the road.
Mhm.
I cannot possibly do something that's in the Christian nationalist realm, and when it gets to be too liberal, I don't look the part anymore.
Right.
So then I'm not a good fit, as much as I would love to do those. So I'm looking for those middle of the road things like that. I am not a a youth pastor. I don't work with kids as a profession or anything like that. But I get hired once in a while to be like, oh, we're doing a fundraiser. Okay, it's a fundraiser show. Good fit. All right. For this church. Okay, that could be a good fit. Okay. To raise funds for the youth program.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. So I am not there to entertain the youth
Mm-hmm.
because they're not donating. The
Right.
donors are their parents and grandparents who are there. That's my audience. So now I know I can do that. But I can make fun of the fact that I don't look like I should be at a youth thing. It's like,
Right.
so when somebody hires a comedian to be at a fundraiser for a youth group, you'd think you want to hire somebody young. That's not me. Somebody who has kids. That's not me. So instead, you get me. Uh, I
Yeah,
I
I
think
love
that,
that.
that's it's knowing who that audience is.
One more question before we ask you some fan questions,
Okay.
which is it's very simple. What are you nerding out on right now? What's geeking your life? What's just the thing that's just bringing you a lot of fun that maybe has nothing to do with comedy or entertainment, but just I don't know, TV, music, life.
Sure.
What's the,
Well, I was gonna say the Fast and the Furious.
are you serious?
No.
Oh.
See,
I know you're not. I knew you
understand.
weren't. But
Yeah,
there's a
so
glimmer of hope.
yeah, I know that you are a big fan of the Fast and the Furious, and I'm just waiting for the books to come out so that I can read them first, and then I will watch the movies. That's what I'm hoping for.
I think if I can't imagine a world where Fast and Furious has books.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, it does have a strategy game. Uh, I think that's the most unrealistic thing the Fast and Furious has ever done was think, let's make a strategy game over
Yeah.
Fast and
Like,
Furious.
so let me see if I get this right. The strategy is to drive fast and furiously.
You got it. You got it.
All right,
That's the
done.
it's not a very fun game. I have it
Okay.
actually. I
Well,
had
you
to
had to
try.
get it. You had to
Yeah,
get it. Yeah.
and it was, and we even me and my friends we had a game night. We were like, this is gonna be the best thing
Yeah.
ever. And it was a little
Sure.
underwhelming, but we shared that experience together. So
Yeah.
okay, well we're
Yeah.
gonna
So
we're oh
to
sorry, go
answer
ahead.
your question, so
Oh
I
yeah,
had to make the joke first. I had to make the joke
yeah,
first.
I
Yeah.
forgot that you didn't actually give me the real answer. I got so distracted with Fast and Furious.
Yeah. It's
That's a
understandable.
different podcast, gang.
Yeah. The I was thinking I knew this question was going to come up, and I was trying to think, what is it? I mean, there's certainly times in my life that it's been like um Star Wars. And so Star Wars for me, I'm of the age that Star Wars came out when I was 10, and
Wow.
I had the toys for Christmas.
Mhm.
And then Empire Strikes Back came out when I was 13, and I had the comic book. And then I took a date to the Return of the Jedi. So it was this absolutely just tracked my youth
Yeah.
growing up. And then I was around 30 when the prequel started coming out and so on. And I absolutely love those. And the Lord of the Rings series and all of
Mm.
those came out. And I've always loved Star Trek. And those are things that I always enjoy. The Marvel movies,
Mhm.
those are a piece of entertainment that I absolutely love. I was a comic book nerd as a kid. Um, I've certainly played plenty of Dungeons and Dragons, the old version though, not any of the new stuff. Um, but I think the things that I'm spending time on now as like my relaxing and enjoying and so on, it's the stuff that's really pulling emotion out of me. Um, and the thing that I'm a sucker for is a changed life where I see somebody go through a process. And the easiest one to call out is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. We see Ebenezer Scrooge go from humbug to I will keep Christmas in my heart and so
Right.
on. So we see that. Um, and so Ted Lasso has been incredible. Shrinking has been terrific, and it's just started back up again the next season of that, and I anticipate watching those shows, anticipate feeling
Mhm.
those feels and enjoying that um, so so that I have the opportunity as well to say, okay, in what ways do these things relate to me? Um, it's not that I necessarily have things in common with the characters. I've never coached a, football team. I've never had Parkinson's. It's not that. It's the here are life experiences and how are they dealing with it? How do I deal with it? And how do I um, agree and disagree with that? And my church planting experience over the years, we always try to do that kind of cultural bridge of here's what's something that's going on in popular culture, and is there a faith perspective on that is either this lines up or this is in opposition, or in what ways do they have things that are similar, things that are in common, things
Yeah.
that disagree. So that's the kind of stuff that I get really geeky and excited about, is when I find those touchstones. And that's where I get excited.
Well, let me get to some of these
Yeah.
fan questions. So, for those of you that don't know, periodically I'll ask the online community, whether it's Facebook, Threads, Instagram, to send me questions. It could be anything at all, and they're questions that I use on this podcast. And they can come from, they can have something to do with comedy, or they could not. And so we got a variety of questions. Brian, you've sent in a lot of questions, so who knows? You might pick one of your questions, which you said earlier you hope that you did, and I hope that you do too.
All right.
But I'm going to ask you to give me a number between 1 and 36, and then that will dictate what question we get.
Okay, I'll start with 13.
13. All right. This one comes from Brian Atkinson. Oh, this will be a fun one. Tell us your favorite street joke.
Oh, okay. So before I tell you my favorite street joke, I have a particular passion about helping comics know that street jokes is not stand up.
Okay.
And there are plenty of people out there who are like saying, "Oh, that was a really good joke. That's really funny." If you can Google your joke, your setup, your punchline, if you can Google it and find it, and it's not you telling it in a video, then don't do it on stage,
Yes.
please.
I agree.
I work with comics all the time who I can Google their act while they're doing it. I have seen people do like total ripoffs of other comics and presenting it as their own material. That's what I mean by a street joke. But it can also be
and for comics, that is career suicide if you get caught. Some people are like, "Oh, well, no one will ever notice." Like, if you want to play that gambit, fine.
Yeah.
But like, as soon as it is, you look at some of the famous comedians that caught for it. It is really hard to dig out of that hole. So not worth it. Also not as skillful. But
exactly.
But we have, this is a safe space for street jokes, Brian.
Yeah.
So
in this particular case, I think it's good to have a joke that is like just a favorite from when you were a kid or things like that, that it becomes the thing that helps define your sense of humor. And mine is a knock knock joke.
Okay.
So this is going to be group participation.
I can help with this. Yes.
Okay. Knock knock.
Just kidding. Who's there?
Okay, we'll try again. Okay. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Control freak. Now you say control freak who?
Okay. Okay. That was good.
Yeah. That is a favorite.
I like that one. And you delivered it very well. It was a good one. So okay.
Yeah.
That was good. I liked it. So you got let's do another one. Number 1 through 36, not 13.
Okay. Go the other side. 27.
27. What do we got for 27? All right. This one came on Facebook from Ed Smith, who's also in the Clean Comedy Collective. Okay, this one's a bit of a long one, but I'm gonna read it to you. What's a comedy TV show, movie, or newspaper cartoon that is quite different from your style, but that you find hilarious, even if that means you cringe at the same time?
Jimmy Carr.
Yeah.
No question about it. Jimmy Carr is an absolute favorite comic. If you don't know who he is, he's British. He's very dark. He's very dirty. And it's not even dirty like it's sexual or things like that. It can be perverse. It can be, but the thing that I love about it is his observations of things. And an example that is not going to be dirty or anything like that is like there's people who have said, "Oh, you need to get canceled for making that joke." And he says, "So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apologize for making that joke. Hey, that was a joke. It was intended to be a joke. I I certainly didn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings by that, and I do apologize." And then they're going to go, "I don't think you really meant that. Now you're getting it." And, and
I
he's
love it.
just got that ability to see through um, what people are saying and thinking and what they don't realize they mean. So I admire his ability to do that tremendously, and it comes across and it can be absolutely filthy, and that is
Yeah.
not my style at all. And I just howl and tear up when I see his specials or just watch clips of him, and it can be stuff that I've seen dozens of times, and I still laugh that hard at Jimmy
Yeah.
Carr.
Yeah. I feel that. I mean, me too. He's hilarious. All right. We'll do one more and then
Okay,
then we'll land the plane. So
number
numbers
three.
number three. All right, number three comes to us from Bo Cowan in Instagram. Um, and it's simply, do you have any tips on doing crowd work?
Crowd work. This is so I don't like the whole crowd work thing that's come up in the last several years of being a replacement for stand-up comedy. Um, I have a strong opinion about it. So what I can say about tips for doing crowd work is number one, when you see crowd work done well, please remember that material was written ahead of time. It is not in the moment, but the thing that makes it believable is they make it seem like it's in the moment. If you want to watch absolutely amazing crowd work, Bob Saget, you can find old specials, not specials, but like where he was doing 10 minutes at the Improv, and they had an evening at the Improv show. You can find that online. You find his material, and all he did was crowd work, but he was doing the "where are you from? What do you do for a living?" And he had a joke for those different situations that he had already written, but it sounded like it was all in the moment. And
Right.
then he got to the end of it, and then he says, "I don't know if you've noticed that I have no act. I just get up here and ask people where they're from and what they do for a living." And then he went on and he made a joke out of it. So he turned that um that's where I learned myself that it was like, "Oh, this is not really extemporaneous. It's in what order it happens. It's not like he's got plants out there and so on."
Yeah.
But the object is like, so to do crowd work, um people think he's like, "Oh, you're just going to be supernaturally funny in the moment." And sometimes you get lightning and it happens. Sure. And when I do, I absolutely post those clips.
Absolutely.
Um,
Those are the clips
yeah,
that are going to do well.
especially it's going to do well, and it's also not going to be material that I have to worry about burning because it's like, well, that's not going to happen again. Um, so it's first and foremost is you have to be listening. So this is going back to your improv training, going to your listening skills. You're listening and you are in the moment, and you are the straight man. The audience is the funny one. So when you watch some really good crowd work, a lot of times what the comic is doing is just asking them, "Oh, so what you're saying is this." And they're expressing something in a very straight, not deadpan, not Stephen Wright deadpan, but just
Yeah.
very straight form. This is what you're saying. And then the audience is, of course, then erupts with that because it's like you've pointed out the obvious. So when you are presented with the opportunity where crowd work happens, is remember, then the audience is the comic now.
Kind of how life goes now. And oh, do you want me to get that? Let me see. Hello? Hello? Yeah, sorry, she can't talk right now. She's in the middle of watching a comedy show and forgot to turn her phone off. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she'll call you back after the show. Okay. All right, thanks a lot. I'm just looking around, everybody's turning their phones off real quick. Oh my gosh.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for being on this episode. This was a great chat. I feel like we're best friends now. You can you can be the best man in my wedding. I don't have a girlfriend or fiance yet, but you know,
you got time.
There we go. Yeah. So where can people find you? I know you mentioned it earlier, but where can people find you? Do you have anything specifically you'd like to promote? Just the floor is yours to share whatever you'd like to share.
So
I mean, promotion wise.
Yeah. The easiest way to find me is Brian A. Comedian. There's always a bajillion different Brians when I was growing up. So it was Brian B and Brian M. And I was Brian A. So I'm Brian A. Comedian and Brian A. Comedian. And that's .com. That's all my social media as well. When you do connect, there's a lot of people who they'll give me a follow and there's, that doesn't really have to go anywhere. Please feel free to send me a direct message. Say hi, say where you heard me, what you liked, what you didn't like. I would love to actually.
Please tell them what you didn't like. Just like here's what you didn't.
And then if you do go to my website, brianacomedian.com, I've got a calendar page there, super easy, that just lists here's everything that I've got coming up for the next while. I've got a weird set of bowling facility shows coming up. Two right at the end of February and another one at the end of March. They're all bowling alleys. But if you are in West Michigan, please make the trip to Grand Rapids for Laugh Fest. Laugh Fest, it's a wonderful thing that raises funds for Gilda's House. We know Gilda Radner. She died of breast cancer, and Gilda's House is a charity at no cost to the people who need it for cancer recovery, grief recovery, and so it's all there to raise funds for that. I'm in a Michigan mashup, which is going to be a combination of stand-up, improv, and sketch comedy all in one venue in one night.
That'll be fun.
We'll be doing that. And then the one that I'm really excited about is there's an afternoon show that'll be at Gilda's House at the facility itself there with our local chef, Jenna. She does a not-for-profit called Food Hugs, and she is the chef at this wonderful Italian restaurant here in Grand Rapids. And so it's going to be cooking and comedy. So I'm going to be providing the comedy and sous chefing for her.
Oh man, that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And then I will be back around in the World Series of Comedy this year at the different satellites. I'm not going to be at every one of them, but all the ones I can get to. So if you keep an eye on my calendar or subscribe to my email list, you can be notified where I'm going to be, when I'm going to be, and that's the easiest way.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing all that. And we'll have his website in the comments. Depending on whatever platform you all are, if you look at the description of this episode, you'll see how you can access his website. We'll have it in the YouTube notes as well. So wherever you're at, you can find him. And just a friendly reminder, feel free to check out cleancomedycollective.com. So we have a whole network of over 200 comedians. You can find Brian and his information in our Michigan section, but we have other states there. There's also information on if you're a comedian and you'd like to apply to be part of the Clean Comedy Collective. You can also see what shows are coming up in which areas. We kind of update it every month. It's with the different shows that we have that other comedians in our network are putting on. There's a chance you can obviously go listen to earlier podcast episodes. There's even everyone's favorite section, a donation section. So if you're like, man, this was such a great episode, I feel like throwing money at Drew, we have an option for that. And so just thank you so much. I hope you find your favorite comedian with us. Maybe it's Brian. Brian's a good one. If you're looking for suggestions, you should check out Brian. And thank you all so much for being with us this week. We look forward to chatting with you next week, and have a great day.
You're welcome.